welcome back to the Catalyst of Development podcast, where our purpose is to help you find yours. This is episode 21, Help! A message about the importance of asking for help. I remember hearing a story about a father who was watching his son trying to lift like a super heavy stone, and the boy failed with every single attempt. Failure after failure, struggling harder and harder with each and every pull. After some time, the father walked up and simply asked, "Are you using all the strength you have at your disposal?" "Of course I am," cried out the boy. "Do you not see me?" His father looked at him and said, "Yes, son, I see you, but I don't think you are. I'm here waiting for you, and you still haven't asked me for my help. So let me ask you, do you ask for help when you don't know how to do something or can't manage something on your own? Do you ask for help when you're struggling? Or, thinking that you're going to look stupid or incompetent, do you pretend like you know what you're doing? Perhaps you think asking for help is a sign of weakness. That if you ask for help, you're admitting that you are inferior or less than in some way. That you lack knowledge, skills, or experience to do something yourself. You don't want anybody to see that you're struggling. You want people to think that you got it all in control and you got everything handled. Well, I'm here to tell you that that is usually when things go wrong. All you have to do is ask for help. And that's what I want to discuss today. I want to discuss the importance of being able to just ask for help. We'll start with why it's hard for some people to simply just ask for help. Then we'll discuss what I feel are 5 benefits that asking for help does. As always, we'll finish with actionable steps. This time we'll focus on right ways versus wrong ways of asking for help. And always some pro tips that you can take starting today to help improve your ability and comfortability with asking for help. So let's not wait any longer. Go ahead and punch in that code and let's see if we can't get you a little bit more comfortable asking for the help that you may need. Author Ann Schaff once said, "Asking for help doesn't mean that we are weak or incompetent. It usually indicates an advanced level of honesty and intelligence." So, if that's the case, why is asking for help so hard for some people? I jotted down about, 8 things that I believe stop people from asking for the help that they need. Let's run through them real quick. Number 1, fear of rejection. Yeah, that probably stops some folks. They don't want to ask the question and be told no. Well, I'll tell you right now, the answer will always be no if you do not ask. All right, number 2, fear of being judged. This goes back to kind of the intro, right? Maybe we look at asking for help like it's a sign of weakness, right? We don't want others judging us. Number 3, we don't want to feel like we have to depend on someone else. I struggle with that sometimes, right? Because maybe I've been let down in the past. Number 4, ego and pride. Yep. If I were to pick one out of this list that I would say is probably the most prevalent, it's the ego and pride. I think that prevents us from asking for help probably more than anything else on this list. Number 5, people don't want to feel like a burden. I sometimes feel this way. When I ask others for help, it's like, look, I know you're busy, or, I know you got a lot going on, but can you, and it makes me feel like a burden. That's just me being real with you. Right? Number 6, sometimes people don't want to feel like they owe someone else, right? Because If I ask you for help and you help me, well, now all of a sudden I owe you, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but some people don't like that feeling. All right, number 7, over belief of self-reliance. Yeah, this used to be me. I could fix anything. I could do anything. I didn't need anybody's help. I can put this all on my shoulders and get it knocked out. Yeah, I had an overbelief of self-reliance, and it almost caused me to break down. And finally, number 8, lastly, just negative past experiences in asking others for help. Like, let's say, for an example, maybe you asked someone to help you, and they did, but they never let you forget about it. They held it over your head or kept throwing it in your face. Yeah, that would discourage some folks for asking for help. So there's a quick 8 right there on why it's so hard for people. If you can think of anything else, drop them in the comments. Any other reasons, maybe some reasons that you struggle with, go ahead and drop them in the comments. I'll add them to the list. So let's jump into the 5 benefits that asking for help provides that maybe we don't realize. So number 1, it connects you with others. Asking for help builds connections, right? It builds relationships. And let's be honest, relationships matter. We're social creatures. Life isn't meant to be a solo mission. It is okay to lean on others. It is okay to, expect help from others and then in turn, give them help when they need it. Number 2, asking for help actually builds courage and confidence. What's the worst that could happen if you ask somebody for help? They could say no. If that's the case and they do say no, 2 things happen. Number 1, you're no worse off than you were when you started. Number 2, they kind of show you that you probably didn't want their help to begin with. I'm going to be honest, if I ask somebody for help and they say no, in my mind, I'm thinking, that's cool, man. I probably didn't want your character, your type of person to help me to begin with. Now, if they say, no, I can't right now, I'm a little too busy, or no, right now I'm focused on something else, but as soon as my time frees up, I'll help you. That's completely different. I'm not talking about individuals like that. I'm talking about the individuals who, I'm trying to keep this PG, right? But those, let's just call them ASSs, right? That are just like, no, I don't want to help you. Though, like, you don't want those people's help anyway. Look, again, I will go back to the answer will always be no if you do not ask. All right, number 3, it increases your productivity. Asking people for help and having people help you, it increases your productivity. Teamwork makes the dream work. You know the cliche saying? It's true. 2 heads are better than 1. Great ideas come from a bunch of good ideas. And we are all smarter than any one of us. The sum is greater than the parts. Yeah, asking for help increases your productivity. Number 4, it helps you gain a different perspective, right? Asking for help, wisdom, knowledge, and experience from others, it shines a light into something that maybe you're not seeing right now. Diversity of thought is a huge benefit. Everybody wants to talk about diversity this, diversity that. Diversity is important, but I've noticed that most people tend to shy away when we're starting to talk about diversity of thought. You want to gain a better perspective on the world, it's about time that you start bringing in some diversity of thought into your wheelhouse, right? Again, different knowledge, wisdom, and experiences. It helps us see the bigger picture. I'm a huge fan of not recreating the wheel. I don't want to recreate the wheel. So if I need help with something and I ask somebody who maybe has already done this, who's already maybe completed a process, I'm just going to take it and tweak it for what I need it for. Why start at square one when somebody can get you to the 80% mark? All you got to do is ask for help. And lastly, number 5, asking for help makes it easier for others to ask you for help. We've already talked about how hard this is for some people. When you ask help from others, it gives them permission to then turn around and ask you for help when they need it. I remember hearing a story about borrowing sugar. There was these two neighbors, and one neighbor was facing some rough times, facing some challenges and some obstacles in their life. They lost their job, so they were constantly going over to the neighbor's house to borrow some tools, borrow maybe a couple slices of bread. They would just borrow and borrow and borrow, and the neighbor had no problem giving and providing that help because they knew that they were struggling. Well, one day the neighbor who wasn't struggling looked at their son and said, "You know what? Let's go next door and let's borrow some sugar." And the child looked up and was like, okay. So they went next door to the neighbor and they knocked on the door and they said, "Hey, do you have a little bit of sugar we could borrow?" And the person, the person who was struggling said, "Oh, absolutely, I have some sugar." And they gave them some sugar. And when they were walking back to their house, the young child asked, "Why did we borrow sugar? We don't need any sugar." To when the response is, "You're right, we didn't need sugar. However, the fact that I asked them to borrow sugar and now they lent us some sugar makes them feel a little bit more comfortable the next time they need something. Because I don't ever want them feeling like they're a burden, because we understand that they're facing hard times right now." I always love that story, right? Because I think it's true. Had they not gone over and asked to borrow sugar, who would have known what the struggling family would have done? Maybe they would have gotten to a point like, "I can't ask this anymore. Like, I'm tired of asking." And then they could have went without. Maybe their children went without. But that one small act of kindness, of just going over and asking to borrow some sugar, now opened the door and makes the struggling family a little bit more comfortable in their time of need. So, this brings us up to our actionable steps. Asking for help, right ways versus wrong ways. These are going to be quick, right? We're going to hit on them. So I got 3 right ways and I got 3 wrong ways. So let's go through the right ways first. Number 1, explain that you've already tried to help yourself. If you're going to ask somebody for help, explain that you've already tried to help yourself. Think about it like this, like a broken down car. Have you ever seen somebody on the side of the road and their car is broken down and they're kind of sitting there and they're kind of waving people down, looking for help? How many people stop and help that individual? Like, let's be honest. How many times have you stopped to help somebody that was broken down on the side of the road? Let's be honest. All right, so let's take that same scenario. A car breaks down, and let's just say in the middle of the street, you're driving by and you see the person trying to push their car by themselves. Chances are more likely that you are going to stop, get out, and help that person push. I've seen it all the time. I've seen this happen all the time. Why are we more willing to help somebody that is pushing their car versus somebody that is just sitting on the side of the road? I'll tell you why. It's because they've already taken the steps to try to help themselves. So when you're asking for help, explain how you've already tried to help yourself, how you've already tried to answer this and you've hit a roadblock. Number 2, make it personal, not transactional. This shouldn't be quid pro quo or you scratch my back and I scratch yours. And no, this isn't transactional. This is, hey, like, I've tried. I just need some help. You're really good at this. Can you help me? Make it personal. Again, this is about connection. This is about relationships. All right. And number 3, be genuine. Show some vulnerability. I'm not really good at this. You are really good at this. Can you help me out a little bit? Can you teach me how you do this? Be genuine. If you're not good at something, just admit it. Right? Admit why you're asking the other person for help. Maybe they are good at it. And then get the help you need. So those are your 3 right ways. Here are 3 wrong ways to ask for help. Overemphasizing how it will benefit the other person. Like, people see through that. Hey, if you help me, this is what you get out of it. Hey, if you help me, this is how it'll make you look good. No, don't do that. That's tacky. If you need help, just ask for it. But you do not need to overemphasize how it'll help or benefit the other person. The number 2 wrong way. Don't make it seem like what you're asking is some small, tiny little favor. Like, don't minimize it like, oh, well, it's can you help me do this? It's on your way home. It's just a small little tiny favor. Like, no. It doesn't matter if it's small, medium, or large. You're asking for help. Don't try to minimize it. All right, and number 3, and this is probably my biggest pet peeve. This is probably the in my opinion, the wrongest way to ask somebody for help is reminding them that they owe you because you helped them. Oh man, I'm gonna tell you right now, that is one of my biggest pet peeves. Hey, can you give me a hand here? Because you remember that one time, like a year ago, I helped you. Don't do that. Don't do. Again, this is going to be transactional. I don't want to have nothing to do with it. I don't. I'm probably going to help you, but then I'm gonna cut it off. Like we ain't doing this trading back and forth stuff. So you got your right ways, you got your wrong ways. If you can think of any other ones, or if you have some experiences of how somebody or how you have asked for help in a right way, or let's be honest, in a wrong way, go ahead and drop in the comments, man. I'd love to hear your experiences and stories. On to everybody's favorite, pro tips. We got a couple pro tips that I've written down, all right? Pro tip number 1, if you have to ask somebody for help that you do not have a relationship with, or someone who is toxic, ego-driven, or extremely selfish, make it about them. Right? This is that Jedi mind trick stuff. There's going to be times when you need help and you have nowhere to turn but to this individual who may be toxic, ego-driven, and extremely selfish. So you have no choice but to ask for help. So how do you do it? You make it about them, right? This is a tactic that I learned in negotiating. Like, it's kind of a win-win. Most toxic, ego-driven, and selfish people rarely go against doing something for their own self-interest. Now, I know I'm contradicting what I said previously. However, this is specifically when we're dealing with these types of individuals and we have no other choice. Look, truth bomb, here it is. Unfortunately, self-interest is a catalyst that will move most people into helping you. It is what it is. All right, pro tip number 2, be direct. Like, don't drop hints. Don't sigh or look sad. Like, oh, this is really hard. Oh, this is so difficult. Like, and then just want somebody to, be a mind reader. If there's one thing I'm not, it's a mind reader. If you want my help, just be direct. Ask me for my help. Clearly explain what you need help with. Don't waffle around and, don't beat around the bush. Don't be like, oh, I know you're really busy, so if you have time. No, just ask me for help. I'm going to tell you whether or not I have time or not. I'm going to tell you whether or not I'm focused on something else or not. Most people will. But you've got to understand that people are not mind readers. So if you want them to read the tea leaves or read in between the lines, you're doing yourself a disservice and you're doing them a disservice. Be direct. If you want help, just ask. All right, lastly, pro tip number 3. If you do receive help, follow up. And by follow up, I mean say thank you. It doesn't matter to me how large or small the assist may have been. Showing gratitude makes the other individual feel valued. Makes the other individual feel like, you know what? And that was worth it. And it shows your appreciation. And the best part is you can do this in person. You can write a personal note. You can do it in an email, a phone call. I don't even care. Send a text. Doesn't matter to me. But follow up and show your appreciation and gratitude for those who do take the time and help you. Because there are tons of people out there who will. All right. Those are your pro tips. Now, as we get ready to wrap up, I want to remind you of this. Asking for help does not mean that you are stupid, inadequate, or less than anybody else. It simply means that you need assistance with something at this specific time in your life. Do not struggle alone. So instead of thinking that asking for help makes you a burden, instead of thinking that asking for help is a sign of weakness, think of it for what it actually is. Giving others an opportunity to contribute, whether or not it's contribute to solving a problem, whether or not it's contribute to your mental well-being, to helping you finish a project. Give other people the opportunity to help. Bottom line, refusing to ask for help is counterproductive. You are more likely to beat yourself up when you can't get something done well or on time, which honestly only lowers your self-esteem and confidence even further. Just ask for help. I think you'll be surprised how many people out there are actually extremely willing to give it. So that's it. As always, thank you so much for allowing me to invest just a little bit in your development. If you found value in this topic or know someone who needs to hear this message, please like, share, comment, subscribe, or you know me, all of the above. Until next time, keep searching for those codes to unlocking your fullest potential. Be a catalyst, not just for you, but for all those around you. Take care.